to speaking to the issue of strengthening and capacity strengthening within the organization, one of the things that we've over the years, at least since I learned from some of you in 2019, but also something that we've been doing for a while, is really spending time and reflecting with amongst ourselves as an organization, but also with peer organizations and with the community members. I think because as Indigenous people, we are not only Indigenous organizations, we're also from the Indigenous communities. So the separation of the organization from the people is really not there. And I think that is a critical part of always reflecting, not only internally to ourselves, but also in the way, the narrative that we put out there, that I am, it's almost what we say in Africa, Utu and Ubuntu, I am because you are. And so we are organizations because of the struggles within our communities and the opportunities that we have as members of those communities to do this work that we do with and for communities. I think that's something that we've learned over the years. Listening to the community, going in as a child of that same community with the hope that not only as myself but also as colleagues, that as I said, the organization is there because of the community, and the organization would really not be as relevant without the community. And so recognizing that, really immersing time in community spaces, formal and informal community spaces, being with the community not only from the work perspective but also from the social perspective, because we are working in communities to liberate them, or to fight for and amplify for their social, economic, cultural, environmental, political rights, and all these aspects of social, environmental, political, economic, cultural do not always happen in a program. They happen in their everyday lives. And so some of the ways that we've been able to strengthen the organization is really immersing ourselves in these spaces of community that not necessarily programmatic, but are also social and cultural. And so that, in my opinion, has strengthened us internally as an organization, but also externally in terms of our relations with the community, and in ways that have helped us also reevaluate how we think about our relationship with the funding spaces and how the funding spaces interact with or may contest with community values and community spaces. So generally, I think it's that holistic space, that holistic looking at how Indigenous organizations, because it is critical. I think what I keep saying with Indigenous, when I'm championing for Indigenous-led organizations, but also Indigenous organizations, is that there is no separation between the community and the organization, and it's that realization from ourselves as people working with Indigenous organizations, people leading Indigenous organizations, that we cannot think in the way the funding space wants us to think about that separation. But as much as it might be there, it might be a thin line, but it is critical for us to constantly reflect on that relationship between the Indigenous communities we come from, we work with, and the Indigenous organizations that are constantly ensuring that we are amplifying and we are shifting power, so that it is not about our relevance, but our place in enabling and in transforming and in breaking the systemic inequalities that have continued to oppress and marginalize Indigenous communities. Just to answer the question around what are some of the experiences of exchanges that we've had, is being comfortable in uncomfortable spaces, allowing ourselves to immerse ourselves and relearn and unlearn some of the things that we've pushed out. Again, in a space where non-Indigenous ways of and it's not to say non-Indigenous are all bad, but non-Indigenous ways of funding, non-Indigenous ways of engaging, non-Indigenous ways of exchanging have made us as socialized into a system of constantly almost transacting, or being in a space where you've got to shine, has weakened our ability of reciprocity, of being within our own space. And so over some of the experiences we've had is really allowing ourselves to, my personal is, I'm a strong woman and I know it, is allowing myself to be vulnerable in this community spaces, so that I can hear what is not said, I can see what's not being shown, and learning from those experiences within communities. So I think that's something that in terms of me but also being the leader of an organization has been a critical way of just challenging ourselves, challenging the power that we have as organizations, but also appreciating the power that being in the community and being with the community gives us, that can help us advocate and realign our resource mobilization to ensure that we're actually responding to community needs, and we're reflecting on where the community is at now and where the community is looking to be in the generations to come.